Lightroom is a great tool for editing, as you probably know. So what I thought I would do in this video is just show you how far you can go with editing a portrait in Lightroom. There's plenty of stuff you can do, but you may find there are some limitations that you want to take the portrait into Photoshop for further editing. But if you want to stick with Lightroom, I'll show you what you can do and try to explain what you can't do. So here's a simple portrait shot taken in Leek Street with just one off-camera flash. So, you know, there's not too much that we need to do with this. This is pretty much unedited at the moment. Let's just go into the develop module. So yeah, we've not even done any editing here in terms of color and saturation, all that sort of stuff. So I won't bother with that for now, but I'm just going to go into the sort of things you can do and sort of issues you can look at and fix with Lightroom. So a couple of things you might want to fix in this shot. You know, we've got a bit of shine on the skin because it was quite a hot day. We've got a few blemishes on the skin. Maybe there's a bit of extra light we want to put into the eyes. And let's see what else we can do. We may just decide to brighten up the bottom part of the face here because it's a bit brighter on the top than the bottom. That's probably what I would aim to do with that. So let's go straight in there. So what I'm going to start off by doing is just fixing some blemishes on the skin. So what I need to do is zoom into the photo. So I'm just pressing Command and plus on a Mac to get into a much closer view. And we're just going to remove a few of these sort of small blemishes here. So I'm going to use up here on the right hand side the spot healing tool here. I'm going to set the opacity to 100 for this. Feather I'll leave it on about 50, actually it's on 49, and I can just make the size sort of the right size to get rid of the thing that I want to remove. And I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller actually, and then I will just make it even a bit smaller just to go with the right thing. Okay, and then we're just going to touch over each of those things that we want to remove. As you see, Lightroom has to choose from another little section before to clone from. I'm using it in the heal mode here, not clone, sorry, so I'm using a heal. So that's automatically kind of doing it. If I want to do sort of a longer kind of wrinkle, let's not wrinkle, a crease in the skin like this, just hold and drag. And then if Lightroom chooses the wrong spot, just move that to where you want it to go. So you could go through and you could do a number of those things and get rid of as many of those as you want. There's not a lot here on this person's face. They're all good, so we've done that. So I could continue and do more, but I won't. Other things that we might want to do, we might decide, because there's a bit of darkness under the eyes because of the way the lighting was not totally perfect. So I'm just going to, and other people may have bigger bags under their eyes. So actually what I normally do for this is I reduce the opacity to around about 40, and I increase the feather quite a bit and then make a bigger brush. And then I'm just going to draw a line under the eye there and then drag that to the bit of skin below. And as you can see, because I've done the opacity at 40, I'm going to press enter now. I haven't totally removed the sort of dark area under there, I've just reduced it. So if you want to adjust that to be 100, I'll show you how that looks. I've moved the opacity of that to 100, I get rid of that, and now it's totally gone. So I think that looks a little bit false, so I'll go back to having it around about 40, so that it's still there a bit, but it's just reduced it from what it was. So I would do that on that eye maybe, and then I would do the same on that eye there, and just use that bit of skin there to match that from. So we've reduced those sort of dark areas under the eyes. I might also just take a brush and brighten the eye area in general. So I take the brush. Let's just go for exposure actually to plus around a third of a stop, plus 0.33. I'm going to turn off auto mask for this part. And then, we'll make sure that we have a nice bit of feather on the brush around about 50. Size looks about right. And I'm just going to sort of brush that over the eye area in general to get the area under and around the eyes to be a bit brighter. So, you can play around with the brightness by moving the slider later while you've got the brush selected. So let's stay around a third. That looks about right. Okay, so we've brightened the eyes slightly. I mean, I'm not going to go into great detail on everything. What's kind of difficult to do in Lightroom is removing this sort of hair here. So I wouldn't bother with that in Lightroom. I can do it, but I'm going to show you if I just sort of take the spot healing brush and sort of drag it, and let's zoom in a bit more. And drag it along the hair there and move it. Actually, it's done an okay job, but we've still got bits left in the eye. Probably I would remove that in Photoshop, actually. So I'm going to leave that. Another thing that's difficult to do in Lightroom is, fix this sort of stray bits of hair here. It would take ages to do that in Lightroom, and I would actually go into Photoshop, so I'll show you that in a separate video. We can have a go, and also removing shine is a difficult thing to do in Lightroom. So I could kind of use a largish brush with a 40 opacity and sort of go over this area a bit and try to sort of clone it a little bit from or heal it with an area nearby. And that kind of actually does work. So if I really didn't want to go into Photoshop for some reason, I could just let's just make sure we pick the right spot for that. You know, we can kind of work with even the nose. Let's not do that. Let's just use a piece of skin. Doesn't work perfectly, but you know, we could probably get away with that. And then, so if I just show you before and after, move myself out of the way. Yeah, so you can see, I'll move myself back out of the way. You know, we're a little bit brighter on the eyes. You can see subtle improvements under the skin. You see some spots removed, not a huge difference. I've done it quite subtly. Yeah, so that's about what you can do in Lightroom. But I would probably, let's go back just to see in this shot that I want to see. Okay, yeah. So yeah, so I've removed those. If I wanted to, like I say, any of that stuff I could go further with. So, you know, like that one. As I say, you can change the opacity of any of these brushes. You know, if you really wanted to obliterate those. There, and then if you look at the before and after for that one, yeah, you can really see the difference there. Totally removal of the eye bags versus not at all. So, you know, you can do reasonable editing in Lightroom for portraits, removal of simple blemishes, a bit of brightening of eyes, a little bit of reduction of shine of the skin, and but that's about it. So I would probably go into Photoshop for anything more than that, which I'll show you in a separate video.